the gloves are off on this matter. We want to make sure that we protect the constitutionality of this country. We want to make sure that the rule of law is upheld. I'll now hand over to Hellen ZILE, our federal chairperson of council, for her to address the media.
Thank you very much, Karabo, and good day to everyone in South Africa who's also been seized with this crucial issue that indeed affects every single person. The issue here at stake is something that the writers of our Constitution could never have envisaged in their wildest dreams. That the first judge president of a province, John Hlophe, to be impeached for gross misconduct and removed from the bench because he was not considered fit and proper to be a judge, has now been designated by his party and by Parliament to sit on the body that recommends judges for appointment. That means that someone who was impeached and dismissed by Parliament because of gross misconduct committed as a judge will now be interviewing and determining who should be judges in this and other courts of South Africa. Now, this is an obvious and extraordinary conflict of interests that should never have arisen. When someone has been impeached as a judge and removed, suddenly they appear at the top of a list of a political party and become MPs. That underscores the suspicion and the distrust that many South Africans have of politicians. Someone who wasn't thought fit and proper to be a judge then appears as a very prominent MP for the MK party and then duly gets nominated to interview and select other people to the judiciary. Now, it would be a travesty if the DA sat back and allowed that situation to develop. Our constitutional democracy is built on the independence of the judiciary. It depends on judges who are above reproach and who act in a way that protects the Constitution and the law without fear or favor. And it is relevant in this context that Dr. Hlophe, the former judge president of the Western Cape, was impeached after a 16-year battle started by myself as Premier of the Western Cape back in the day. Started by us because he attempted, against his oath of office, to influence judges of the Constitutional Court to rule in favor of Jacob Zulu. Now, a more egregious and extreme case of judicial misconduct would be hard to find. And so, while we respect the fact that MK, in terms of the law, has a right to nominate someone to sit on the Judicial Service Commission that chooses judges, we contest the fact that they may choose someone who has such a profound conflict of interests. MK has argued that we cannot quibble or second-guess their choice for the Judicial Service Commission. And they say that Parliament has designated him, in fact, to serve on the Judicial Service Commission. The critical, pioneering, precedent-setting issue before this court is whether someone who is so entirely compromised and was seen as unfit and improper to serve as a judge should be allowed to be in a position where they interview and select judges. We believe that this is a watershed case for South Africa, and it will go down in history as the case that either defended the independence of the judiciary or compromised it. We hear with other interested actors, Freedom Under Law, for example, and CASAC, the body that defends the South African Constitution, and we are here together because this issue affects every single South African. This is a matter that will touch anyone who ever has a family member who ever appears before a court of law. If you want an impartial judicial hearing that is free and fair of political influence, and where you can trust that judges only uphold the rule of law and the Constitution, this matter affects you. And the DA is acting on behalf of every South African, whether they support us or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Now, colleagues, I will open up for a round of Q&As, but to be specific, we are only going to be accepting questions that deal with the subject of today's matter. Any other questions outside of that, we will have an opportunity for one-on-ones on that. So I'll open up a round. Please just state your name and the news house that you are representing, and I'll take them accordingly. Okay?
My name is Marvin. I wanted the federal chair to also just touch on the second part, because this application is twofold, right? I want to hear the second part of your application, where you're talking about the national assembly and the role of the national assembly.
Okay, so that is one, Malungelo. Is there a second one, or should we go directly to a response? All right, Helen.
In terms of our Constitution and the law, the National Assembly has the right to confirm party appointments for designation to the Judicial Service Commission. We're saying that Parliament has that right, but it cannot be an unfettered right. They have to consider the fitness and propriety of the persons that are nominated. So we're saying that if MK nominated Dr. Hlophe, does not mean automatically that Parliament is bound to send him and designate him. Parliament must still apply its mind. Parliament has a duty to uphold the independence and integrity of the judiciary, and that is the second part of the case.
Yeah. So, no questions, colleagues? Yes, there's one more. Right, okay. Okay, colleagues, let me take two more hands. Okay, so there's one. Is there another hand, or is that the last question of the day? Okay, one, yes?
And given that there
Please state your name and your news house. Yeah.
Given that there isn't anything in the law, Helen did mention earlier that the drafters of the Constitution could never have imagined a scenario like this. But that given the fact that it isn't prohibited in the law for an impeached judge to become an MP firstly, and then secondly to be designated in this manner, how strong a case do you feel that you have, given that it is not in the law?
This is why this is a precedent-setting case. The courts will have to interpret the Constitution in this context. And I'm not a lawyer, but the Constitution is very clear that the judiciary has to be independent, has to be trustworthy, has to be imbued with integrity, and has to carry the confidence of all South Africans. And in that context, the court will have to interpret whether Parliament has a duty to uphold that particular underpinning of the rule of law, or whether they are free to nominate anybody and designate anybody, no matter what their background is. We're contending that the Constitution and the law makes it necessary for all parties involved in designating and selecting judges to be above reproach. And that interpretation this court has to make, which is why this issue is so important.
Okay. All right, colleagues, that is it. Thank you so very much. I indicated that there will be an opportunity for one-on-one conversations if you wish to have so. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks. I just gave you a look.
Family, I want us to talk about the issue of former Judge John Hlophe. Hellen ZILE and the DA are attacking the judge, the former judge. Finally, as they attack the former judge, they are making sure that he doesn't get a seat. So this is kind of crazy, because when you look at it in a bigger picture, Before, it was Julius Malema. They've been accusing them of VPS, but nobody wants to arrest them. They just want to smear you so that people can hate you. But what is strange about everything? Everywhere lapho kunomuntu omnyama, lapho kugcilazeka umuntu omnyama khona, umlungu usebenzisa omnye umuntu omnyama ukugcilaza umuntu omnyama. Bheka naba abantu abamnyama abemela lapha no Hellen ZILE. Abathengisi abanye laba abathengisa bapha belungu bakubo bahambe bayoma naye lamabhunu amanye ame naye lapha kubonakala ukuthi phela cha ulwa impi nebelungu bakubo. La sibiye le ndabeni yasefarm lapho kubulewe abafazi ababili abamnyama badutshulwa ibhunu nomntanalo. Bekunomuntu omnyama ungumthengisi. Siye ku IFP. Kuthiwe uma kuyinkatha kuliwa lapha eSouth Africa kulwelwa ukuthi kukhululeke umuntu omnyama. Kwakune umuntu omnyama obekathengisa ngabantu abamnyama bebagijima emalokishini yonke indawo bafaka ama-ribbon amnyama ama-ribbon abovu einhloko kubulawa abantu bashiswa ngamathayi kuba ngokona lokho. So we are trying to understand why this thing is always happening like that, because yonke indawo lapho abelungu basebenzisa abantu abamnyama ukulwa nabantu abamnyama. Why is Hellen ZILE not bringing his own people to come and do this thing? You will always see them in the bigger space, like in court. Ubabonile ke lapho ke batheleke khona lapho balwa no Judge Lop, which it doesn't paint a good picture in a country whereby the majority are black people. And indaba abangayikhulumisi lithe ibhunu lala abamnyama asikambona uHellen ZILE going to court athi angiyifunde into iphinde yenzeke lena lapha eSkhwahlande, we are all equal ezweni lethu. But she never did that. She just shut her mouth. We have seen a lot of instances where umuntu omnyama angathi uyakhuphuka ubonakala ukuthi ungcono kunomuntu omhlophe. It's when bona babona ukuthi baluza amandla ne-privilege, then it's when you will see all this kind of things happening. Ngithi angiyibeke ngesizulu because uYouTube kwesinye isikhathi uyi-problem. Uma uthi ukhuluma ngalesi ngisi uhlaba labelungu babo baslower down ama-video akho ukuthi angabi nama-views. Banendlela benza ngayo and bayayikhona lento yabo ukuyenza. So ngithi namhla asengikhulume nomuntu omnyama ukuthi asesiyeke ukuthengisana sodwana because akusizi asiyindawo. I like the fact nje nyalo kuyamobilizwa ukuthi bakhona ukuthi baphumelele abantu abamnyama kuze kuthi kutholakale nangomhlaba owahamba kudala. Abantu abamnyama sesiyabona ngathi bayavuka manje bafuna ukwenza into ephilayo. Beku Julius Malema izolo. The next is kwaba uJacob Zuma. The next uthuma yakhe uMK uJacob Zuma hayi kwaba izivunguvungu bagijima baya eKZN bayovimba ukuthi bazi kahle ukuthi iMK ithole amavoti amaningi kunawo wonke umuntu olaphana, bangafuni ukusebenzisa le percentage ethole iMK. Kwasetshenziswa abantu abamnyama ukuze ukuthi kucindezeleke abantu abamnyama. So lento lena it's a trend and it's never stopping. I don't know why it's not stopping, why people they don't understand ukuthi leli ilizwe elethu asikwazi ukubambana sikwazi ukuthola izwe lethu siphumelele senze lokho singakwenza ngomhlaba, because even noma ngabe ulima endaweni yakho wondle umndeni wakho kunokuthi kuyohlala lapha emikhukhwini kokhayelitsha yonke indawo sicashazwa ababhunu. Bantu bakithi, let us be careful, let us take the fight where it's necessary, hayi lapho kungafanelanga khona. Ujudge manje uhlophe kuliwa naye uyavinjwa, bekuzuma izolo wakhe uMK kumalema kwabizwa VPS kuthiwa batshontshe imali zo VPS abantu abadala, kodwa bonke abantu abasolo ba-exposeka bachamuka kwelinye isayidi abachamuki lapha ku-EFF. So you start to understand ukuthi the power of social media, it's big, because social media can take you up there and can drop you from up there to down zero. Family, let us comment respectfully. Let's not forget to subscribe, like, share. Ngiyanithanda nonke bantu bakithi, ngithi kini noma izindlu zodaka kusekhaya lapha. Let's fight the battle until we win. Asimsupport uJohn Hlophe. Uma kubiza ukuthi kungene emgwaqweni azi amabhunu ukuthi akangabadelela abantu abamnyama. Ngithi kini ke bantu bakithi, ngiyanithanda ngothando luka love, ngithi bravo.